In this video, we will be exploring powers of 10 and division. Our content objective, or our focus for the day, will be that we will recognize patterns in quotients when dividing by powers of 10. The language objective is how we will show that we have learned the concept. If I want to show that I have learned the concept, I will explain how I can use powers of 10 to check my work when dividing by multiples of 10. Before we jump into the lesson, I want you to pull up either your Jamboard activity or the Google Slide activity that will go along with this video. Please pause the video if you need to pull up the activity. Once you have it, you can press play. Our first problem is 60 divided by 10. I'm going to focus on the top left side that says divide the divisor into equal groups. Our divisor is 60, so I'm going to draw what 60 would look like using base 10 blocks. I've now drawn 6 tens in order to represent 60. I need to divide 60 into equal groups of 10. I'm going to show this by circling my equal groups. Please pause the video to try this yourself and press play when you're ready to check your work. Now that you're ready to check your work, I'm going to show how I divided the divisor into equal groups of 10. After making my equal groups, I'm now going to see how many I was able to make. I was able to make 6 groups of 10. So my answer is 6. But I'm going to use the other strategies to double check my work. For the number line strategy, I'm going to build a number line that ranges from 0 to 60. Since I'm dividing by 10, I'm going to break up my number line in order to show tens. I can skip count to double check that I've done it properly. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. In order to check if I was correct on my answer, I'm going to see how many times this number line can be divided if I show tens. I can check this by showing the amount of times it takes to skip count until I reach 60. My number line strategy also shows me that my answer should be 6. I'm now going to focus on the strategy related to moving the decimal point based off the power of 10 rule. In order to do this, I'm going to write my divisor, 60, so that it shows the decimal point. I know that that decimal point is invisible, so I can make it visible. Normally, it's only shown when there's actually a decimal involved in the number. I'm now going to move my decimal point based on the power of 10 that is involved in my problem. Since I'm dividing by 10, there is only one 0, So I'm going to move the decimal point 1 time. Since I'm dividing, I know that the number is going to be smaller. So I'm going to move that decimal point 1 time to the left. I can now rewrite my answer as 6. In the last section of my graphic organizer, I'm going to show what it looks like showing the exponent form. This means I'm just going to rewrite my problem in a way that I might see it later on. I can rewrite this problem as 60 divided by 10 to the first power, because 10 to the first power is equivalent to 10. At this point, you might want to pause the video in order to catch up on your notes before we move on to the next problem. When you're ready for the next problem, press play. Our next problem is 100 divided by 10. If I were to draw the divisor 100 as a base 10 block, it would be like this. Thankfully, since I have experience with base 10 blocks in person, I know that a base 10 block of 100 actually has 10 tens in it. So I'm going to redraw this to show that by separating out the tens. Now that I've redrawn that, I can now make equal groups of 10. And when I count my groups, I see that I was able to make 10. So 100 divided by 10 should be equal to 10. I'm now going to use the number line strategy to double check my work. So I'll build my number line to show 0 to 100. Since I'm dividing by 10, I'm going to break it up so that I show tens on the number line. I can see if my answer was right by checking how many times it takes to skip count by tens in order to reach 100. Please pause the video to try this on your own. When you're ready to check your work, press play. Based on my number line, I was able to skip count by tens 10 times before I reached 100. So this strategy also shows that my answer should be 10. For the moving the decimal point strategy, I'm going to rewrite the divisor to show the decimal point. The decimal point as many times as there are zeros in my multiple of 10. Since there's only one zero in 10, I'm going to move the decimal point 1 time to the left because I'm dividing. I can now rewrite my answer as 10 because 10 with a decimal point and a 0 after it is equal to 10 wholes. For the exponent form, I'm going to show how this might look if I were to see this problem showing exponents. This problem might look like 100 divided by 10 to the first power, because 10 to the first power is the same as 10. Please pause the video if you need time to catch up on your notes. When you're ready, press play for the next problem. Our next problem is 300 divided by 100. In order to divide the divisor into equal groups, I'm going to draw 300 to represent the divisor using base 10 blocks. And I'm dividing this by equal groups of 100. And I was able to make 3 groups. So my answer is 3. To double check, I'm going to build that number line. And break it up to show hundreds on the number line. At this point, pause and see if you could solve the rest of this strategy on your own. When you're ready to check your work, press play. After dividing this number line to show the hundreds, I see that it would take 3 times before I would reach 300. In order to double check my work, using the strategy related to moving the decimal point, I'm going to rewrite my divisor and show the decimal point. Based on the patterns I've been seeing when I divide by multiples of 10, I know that I need to move that decimal point as many times as there are zeros in my multiple of 10. There are 2 zeros in 100, so I need to move the decimal point 2 times to the left since I'm dividing. I can now rewrite my problem as 3. Actually, I can now rewrite my answer as 3. When I'm showing the exponent form of this problem, I'm going to show that I divided 300 by 10 to the second power, because 10 to the second power is the same as 100. Please pause the video if you need to catch up on these notes. When you're ready, press play to see the next problem. Our next problem is 1000 divided by 100. I'm going to draw the divisor using base 10 blocks. The 1000 cube is the bigger 3D cube. Since it's hard to show dividing that 3D cube, I'm going to show what it breaks down as. Thankfully, from my experience with the 1000 cube, I know that it contains 10 hundreds blocks. So I'm going to draw 10 hundreds blocks. Now I can divide them up to show equal groups of hundreds. I was able to make 10 groups. So my answer is 10. I'm now going to check my answer using the number line strategy. After setting up my number line to show 0 to 1,000, I know I need to break it up in order to show hundreds. I can now see how many times it takes to skip count by 100 in order to reach 1,000. Based on my number line, I would need to skip count by 100 10 times to reach 1,000. In order to show this using the moving the decimal point strategy, I'm going to rewrite my problem to show the decimal point. I can now check what power of 10 I'm dividing by. Since I notice there are 2 zeros in 100, I know I'm dividing by a power of 2, which means I need to move the decimal point 2 times. I can now rewrite my answer as 10. So far, all of my solutions check out. I'm now going to rewrite it to show the exponent form, which is 1,000 divided by 10 to the second power. I know this because there are 2 zeros in 100. You can now work on completing the rest of the problems on your assignment on Google Slides or Jamboard. Remember to pause the video and re-watch if you need help.